Parent Entrepreneur Power, conversation number 165.
Parent Entrepreneur Power.
Wait, what? Entrepreneur Power!
This is the podcast for parents juggling the tough choices required for success in business while putting family first. Hi, I'm Mary Catherine Johnson, and I share the ups and downs and dirty truths of profits and potty training while chatting with successful parent entrepreneurs from all walks of life. Are you powered up? Hey there, Power Parents. Guess who? You know who I am, Mary Catherine Johnson. Yeah, I say that every time, and I know you know who I am because you're listening to this, and you've probably listened for a long time. Hopefully. I'm really hoping you have. But if you haven't, Mary Catherine Johnson here. If this is your first time here, welcome. I am so excited you're here because you you might not know that I have a bachelor's degree in nutrition and food science from UC Berkeley. And so my next guest is speaking quite to my heart in terms of the food part and the science part of what I learned way back when. We won't go into when that was. Anyway, my guest is Dr. Susan Peirce Thompson. She is the author of Bright Line Eating, The Science of Living Happy, Thin, and Free. Welcome to the conversation. Susan, how are you?
Oh, thank you, Mary Catherine Johnson. And I went to UC Berkeley, so
there you go.
A little thing we didn't know we had in common.
See, you never know. You never know. The world is so small, yet so large. So yay, we could definitely talk about that. But welcome to the conversation. I can't wait to dive into who you are, how you became a parent and an entrepreneur at the same time. So let's just get that show on the road, shall we? Give us your once upon a time story. How did you get into this whole parenting and entrepreneur thing?
Well, yeah, once upon a time I was minding my own business. I really was. I was a tenured psychology professor. And, I had 3 daughters, and my husband and I tried really hard to have kids. There was a lot of infertility in the mix, so a lot of infertility treatments, and we ended up having twins, and they ended up being micro preemies weighing 1 pound each, and 4% chance of survival. They both are healthy today. Total miracle. And, they were, let me just try to do the math. I think the twins were 5 or 6, and the baby girl, all 3 girls, the baby girl was 2 or something. 3 years between the twins and the little one. And I was, at that point, my life was super full. Obviously, mom of 3 kids, assistant chair of the psychology department, teaching a bunch of college courses every semester, including a college course on the psychology of eating, body image, and wellness, which I infused with a pretty heavy dose of the neuroscience of food addiction, which is one of my favorite subjects because I'm a food addict from way back and, did drugs as a teenager to keep weight off me and fell in love with the drugs and got clean and sober when I was 20 and got fat, which I knew I would when I stopped doing crystal meth, because if you stop doing crystal meth, you get fat.
Don't you hate it when that happens? Gosh.
Totally hate that.
What the heck?
And then, spent a lot of years wrangling with my own food addiction and becoming obese and just, then spending years in the quagmire of how can I now that I'm clean and sober and working the 12 steps and everything, how can I be so successful in everything in life? I mean, I spoke at the graduation at UC Berkeley, earned my PhD in brain and cognitive sciences, happily married. I can run a marathon. I can do anything, but I can't seem to take off the 60 pounds that I need to lose. And so I lived in that hell for a while. I did finally lose all my excess weight through a sort of an abstinence-based model of no sugar, no flour, weighing and measuring my food 3 meals a day. Right. And the people that I knew, I was in a very rigorous 12-step program that taught that, a 12-step program for food addiction. And the people around me who needed to lose weight wanted no part of it. They didn't want to go to 3 meetings a week. They didn't want a sponsor to talk to at 6:15 in the morning. They didn't want all that, And
way too much work.
It was way too much work, way too much commitment. And I started to realize that there were gradations of food addiction in the people around me, that I identified as a food addict, and I really can just find myself face down in a bowl of cookie dough. But that there are people around me who, had weight to lose, but didn't have the kind of obsession and compulsion that I had. but they certainly were more addicted than other people who just sort of can take it or leave it, right? Don't think about food at all, right? And are in a right-sized body, and it's just not on their radar screen at all. And so I started thinking about the gradations and how the program that I was in was so extreme, and for a person who really needed an extreme solution, and that there really, the Weight Watcherses of the world really weren't hitting on what was needed to help the rest of everybody that didn't need an extreme 12-step food program, but that needed something more potent and more effectual. And through my life as a college professor, teaching about the psychology of eating, I was going to conferences and experiencing Mary, I don't even know. Should I call you Mary or Mary Catherine?
You're totally cool with Mary.
Okay. So there was like desperation, Mary, among my colleagues in academia and in medicine. Like nothing works out there. They don't have any, I don't know if people realize that. There is not a single published paper in any academic journal anywhere that demonstrates any program of any kind, hospital-based, liquid diet-based, Weight Watchers-based, any program taking a cohort of people and who are overweight or obese and getting them into a right-sized body and then helping them stay there.
That there's the key. There are many, many, many programs where if you do them, they will get you to where you want to be, but they don't handle what got you there to begin with. Right?
Yeah. And right. And they sort of leave you to the execution over the long term, right? They're like, okay, don't eat donuts and eat broccoli instead. And right, it's like, okay, go have at it. And it's like, well, if I could do that, I wouldn't be in this situation.
Life. Hello. We're talking about life. Okay.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so, anyway, so that's where I was at when I say I was minding my own business. I had been doing this 12-step program for food addiction, giving it 20 to 30 hours a week of my time, mentoring people, sponsoring people. I took phone calls for 2 hours every morning, back to back to back to back, taking people's food commitments, helping them lose their excess weight. And I was teaching all this stuff in college. And so one morning it was just over 3 years ago. It was January 26th, 2014. I was in my morning meditation, and God, the universe, my highest self, whatever you want to call it, like just put it on my heart, write a book called Bright Line Eating. And at that point, Mary, I'd never heard the words Bright Line Eating. They came to me in meditation just like that. Write a book, Bright Line Eating. And the feeling in my meditation was, it was two things at the same time. I was pulsing in my meditation with all of the pain of all of the people, all the prayers of people saying, I'm at my wit's end with this. God, you've got to give me, there's got to be a solution for this. Like, why can't I stop eating a pint of ice cream every night? This is ridiculous, And at the same time, I was pulsing with the power of the information that I had and the message that I had to share, because I'd unpacked the science, like not all of it. A lot of it has come sort of piecemeal since then, but I could explain pretty well how our brains were blocking us from losing weight and why the average diet doesn't work, and what it actually takes to live in a right-sized body long-term once you've been obese. I think I've been slender now for 13 years. That puts me in the top 1/100th of 1% of successful weight loss maintainers. Like nobody does that. You don't go from obese to slender and stay there for 13 years. It just doesn't happen. So I set out to write a book. And of course, in writing a book, I had to write a book proposal. And in writing the book proposal, I learned that you have to have a platform to have anyone actually read your book. And that's where I was like, so I'm Googling, what is a platform? What's a platform?
And Michael Hyatt came up, right?
Michael Hyatt's book, Platform, came up, exactly. And I was like, I bought it. I started reading it. I was like, okay, I still don't know what this means or what I'm supposed to do. And then it was right then that Jeff Walker's book Launch was coming out. That was the summer of 2014. And I got caught somehow in the maelstrom of his book launch promotion, where for $6.99, which is free book plus you pay the shipping, we'll send you the book. And I bought the book through that promotion. And I got offered an upsell page that offered his course, Launching Your List 2.0. And at that point, I'd been reading about different forms of platforms, and I'd learned that an email list was one of the most important forms of a platform, and that, an email list will eat a social media platform for breakfast all day.
That's right.
You've got people's email addresses, how to reach them when your book comes out. So So I decided to do what, I sort of begrudgingly, really begrudgingly, honestly, the only reason I was doing this whole expletive thing was just to write a book, and so I launched an email list. That was August 5th of 2014. And the whole thing just exploded from there, Mary. Like, that's the beginning of it. And, so there I was, mother of 3 little kids. And all of a sudden I was an entrepreneur, and the totally reluctant entrepreneur.
Do I really want to do this? Why in the heck? What have I gotten myself into? Why am I worrying about email lists and launches and funnels and
launches and funnels?
Yes. All these words that I didn't, a funnel was like something to, take a big pot of water into a little jar as far as I knew. And now it's something else.
Totally.
Totally. Yeah, I get it. I hear it. Oh my gosh, what an amazing journey. And I have to come back to a couple of things. Okay. So many things. It's going to be hard. I could easily tell we could talk for hours and hours, but let's encapsulate it here. So let's come back to this whole journey. Your kids were little, you were meditating. So yes, thank goodness. Good for you. You obviously have not just the understanding of the science of the brain, but the understanding of really getting in touch with inside your spirit, your self, your whatever you want to call it. Do you have a really, not necessarily rigid, but a routine, regular morning routine?
Oh, yeah. Locked down pretty well. 30 minutes of morning meditation is a key feature of it. So, I could get it so I get out of bed and I do a certain stretch first thing when I get out of bed, which is to counteract all the hunching I do over a computer. Yeah. So I put my arms out to the side wide, palms up, and then I tilt the palms back as if I have a soup bowl in each hand and I'm pouring the soup out behind me. And then I pull the arms back and I tuck my chin into my chest and I just open up my whole chest cavity. I drop to my knees and I say the 3rd step prayer. So for anyone who's in 12-step programs, there's a prayer that's basically like asking God to guide you and surrendering your will to God and, asking for, whatever, that kind of thing. Yes. I go pee and I read a morning meditation book while I'm sitting on the toilet. Nice little multitasking there. I take my thyroid medicine and then I go into my meditation room / guest room / office and I sit on my meditation bench. I set a timer for 30 minutes and I sit for 30 minutes. And
is then it guided, or have you gotten to the point now where you just allow yourself to go deep and see whatever comes?
I've mostly done it in silence. There are some audio tracks that I've used here and there. I seem to prefer to default to silence. Mm-hmm. I like HoloSync pretty well, if you know Bill Harris. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty cool track, but I like the 10-minute mind. But mostly I just like silence. I just sit. I just sit.
And just let your mind, do you control your mind and try and focus your mind on your breath or anything else like that, or just kind of let go? How do you stop the thoughts?
Well, there is no
or do you let them go by?
Sometimes, I think often because my life is so packed, I find so much value in letting them run. Yeah. And I also find value in coming back to the awareness of the present moment in various ways. So whether that's toward the beginning, I try to take a deep breath in through my nose and out through my mouth and feel the breath in my belly. Mm-hmm. And that will sort of connect me with my body a little bit. I try to do that at least 4 times. And then I also try to feel my face and let the muscles in my face and my eyes and my shoulders soften and release.
Yes.
Yes.
And I have to tell you, go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
I just like to sit, yes. I was just told to sit. Like it's like 30 minutes on your bum is a win. I don't care what you're doing. Yes. There's no requirements. 30 minutes with no requirements.
Okay. And I need to tell you, we call ourselves on this show, we call ourselves power parents. And like we were talking about before we started recording, we have the power that we need already. If we've navigated life as a parent with little children, getting them through potty training, we can do anything. So we already have the power. Look inside, you've got it. So, power parents, thank you for going through that scenario with us. I really wanted to ask Susan to do that for me because We've talked about meditation many times, and it's not just meditation to meditate and get in touch with the universe and whatever you think, whatever your image of meditation is, if you're not doing it, it's getting in touch with yourself. Silence yourself to prepare yourself for the day. So for instance, this morning I missed my morning meditation. My life started hitting the ground running. I had to do certain things, and that was not normal. I missed it. I felt scattered. I felt not in tune. I didn't feel ready to start my day because I missed that. So I need you to hear, please, Power Parents, that there's a reason beyond, and it doesn't have to be structured. It doesn't have to be specific, but just that silence is sometimes very difficult because sometimes things come up that you don't want to face. So if you can do that, in addition to parenting, you can really do anything. So, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that.
I want to linger there for just another second because it's interesting, Mary, that I've had a formal meditation practice for 13 or 14 years, 30 minutes every morning. And, of course I miss sometimes, but, that's the standard is 30 minutes every morning. And before becoming an entrepreneur, I could miss it for a stretch of time, which would happen sometimes, like especially when I'm traveling, for example, and not really notice the difference, actually. And friends of mine who also had a meditation practice would talk about, running rough if they hadn't had their meditation. I was like, I feel okay. I'm fine, And then I became an entrepreneur and my business became super successful and my message got out there in the world and my tribe grew and got huge. And now I feel it immediately if I don't meditate, and especially if I don't meditate for a series of days, I run really rough. Like I feel jangly in my skin. Like I just need that space like I never did before as an entrepreneur.
Why
There's
do you
something
think
about
that is?
holding space for so many people. I don't know. There's the load. I mean, I have a team now I have 25 full-time employees. I've got, some 450,000 people have joined my email list in the last, 2.5 years. We serve, clients from 75 countries, all of the people with food issues, so like a really sensitive clientele, right?
Yes.
Like people who need love and handholding and compassion and so there's a lot coming at me. And, I suffer from major decision fatigue and just, I run rough if I don't get that space. I just need to like drop in. I mean, yes, there's been blessings and I've had subsequent ones where I actually get a message in meditation that changes the trajectory of my life. I got another one when I had to hand back tenure, which is something that was scary that nobody ever does, right? Who hands back tenure?
Yes.
Like what the expletive is that?
Right.
So, and the chair of the department at the time was one of my best friends in the world. And she was like, Susan, we're having our department meeting where we pick fall classes. If you don't frickin' show up or hand me a letter of resignation, I have to pick fall classes for you. Like you have to teach or you have to quit. Like I'd already had a year unpaid leave of absence from the board of trustees. They didn't renew it for another year. And it was like, hand back tenure or go teach class. And I was like, I can't teach class. Yeah. So I was resistant. And it was the day of that department meeting, the day of it. And I'm sitting in my morning meditation resisting. And I have this image of myself back on the college campus of my alma mater where I got my PhD, which is the University of Rochester, which is not the college that I got tenure at. That was another college. And I pictured, and in my meditation, a vision came to me of me walking on that campus as a professor and feeling so amazing to be there because the research is being done there that I want to partner up with. And, it's just that department is in the top 3 in the world in my field. And it's just a really amazing intellectual community. And I pictured that. And as that came to me in my meditation, every last bit of resistance to giving up tenure at my current college just vaporized. It was like, oh, this isn't where I'm supposed to be anymore. Yeah. And like a few months later, I don't remember, 5-6 months later, I was walking into the office of the chairman of the Department of Brain and Cognitive Sciences at the University of Rochester, telling him what I'm doing with Bright Line Eating and saying, how about you give me a professorship? And he was basically like, okay. And they had me do a job talk. They talked to the deans. I mean, I went through the whole blah, 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 but now I'm a professor there. I mean, to be clear, adjunct associate professor
Yes.
of brain and cognitive sciences at the University of Rochester. They didn't hand me tenure or anything, but
Right.
I have an appointment there. I don't have to teach. I don't have to do research. I don't have to do anything. They just gave me a home to have an academic community, and I can form research connections and liaisons. So anyway, so I get these visions in meditation, and the rest of the time it's just like, yeah, I don't know. I was resistant for so many years because I was sober for a long time, and in 12-step rooms they talk about meditation, and I didn't
Mhm.
start a formal meditation practice for 6 or 7 or 8 years of my sobriety. And then finally it was like, okay, I need to just show up to it, set a
Yeah.
timer, and just show up to it, just
Because
like I
there's a
show up
reason,
to
right?
whatever.
Because there's a reason. People are talking about this for a reason. They're not just saying this is a tool and it's, throwing it out there. There's a reason. It works. It takes you to the next level. So power parents, if you are running yourself ragged, doing everything in your business, if you're one of the solo entrepreneurs of the world, which there are countless numbers, and you want to rise above. You maybe aren't ready for 25 employees like Susan or, all these other things, but you are ready to take on a VA or a marketing assistant or whatever you're talking about and rise to the next level. You can't rise to that next level unless you look inward and find the peace and the ability to be in your own skin, to be able to take that on, because it is. Your life gets more busy. We think our lives are busy as parents. They absolutely are. That is the hardest job in the world. But when you add entrepreneur, I mean real entrepreneur, where you have
Yeah,
other
really?
people you're dealing
People have
with,
no idea. Oh my
that's,
God.
yeah. And if I
Yeah.
didn't have that, yeah, I'd be bouncing off the walls. Nobody would love me. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, they would not like me at all.
And there's this truism because I've grown an online business harder, faster, bigger than anybody that I know in the online space has ever seen, right?
Yeah.
Just in terms of top line revenue numbers, boom, 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 in 2.5 years. And so what I'll say about that is, and I got this from one of my best friends and mentors in this space, Sage Levine, who teaches women to be rock star entrepreneurs. Um, and she's taught me, and it's been so true in my experience, that as your reach grows, as your voice grows, as your tribe grows, as your business grows, your level of self-care must grow to keep pace with it. You must take better care of yourself, or you will not be able to hold space for your business, yourself, the people you influence, your clients, your whatever. You must grow your self-care right in lockstep with growing your business.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to say it. Thank you. It's like the oxygen mask in the airplane. You really do have to keep that oxygen mask on yourself before you can put it on anyone else. So I didn't mean this conversation to talk all about meditation, but oh my goodness, it is so vital. So, all right.
Yeah.
So you've gone through this, you had this vision in this meditation about writing this book. And I have to divulge, I have to say that, eating has been a difficulty in my life, all my life. The examples of eating were not exactly great growing up. My poor husband, he agrees and admits freely that he completely is addicted to food, especially sugar. Every night he goes searching the cupboards for sugar, for ice cream, for cookies, because there was a drawer in his house growing up that he could access anytime he wanted. Any cupcake, cookie, ice cream, every night had dessert, all those things. So you are speaking, I know I'm not alone. I know my husband, I don't need ice cream and all those things every night. My issues are very different. But I know we're not alone. Obviously, we're not, because of the amazing success you've had. So tell me more about your book and how, I know you can't go into this complex scientific subject in surface issues. And I also want to go back to when we were chatting about your addiction and getting through that and how we kind of made light of it. And I want to touch on that for a minute and just say, yes, we might have made light of it. I might have made light of it, but it is not a light subject. It is a very serious and difficult one. So that being said, take me through how your book and how your community and how your business helps people. What transformation do they have, which I can only imagine is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, well, at its best, the transformation, which, we're seeing in our community, we have a research program going. We track, what's going on, and um, our bright line eating population is 280 times more successful than any documented weight loss program ever on planet Earth at helping people get down into a right-sized body and stay there. So that's the transformation at its basic. People have weight to lose; they want to get it off. The underlying part, of course, is, in that their cravings go away, and their hunger levels are, none or manageable. Um, they, experience a confidence and a level of hope that um, they never thought was possible. For most people, this is something that was their nearest and dearest wish of their entire life, and for most of them, a desire that they had abandoned because they had experienced so much failure that they really felt that to be good to themselves and to be loving of themselves, it was important to give up that desire to live
Let
in a
it go.
right-sized body and to
Mm-hmm.
be free with food. That at some point, with that amount of failure, self-love had to come first, because they came to believe that it just wasn't possible to have both. Like, you can't be free with food and to feel, to feel freedom from food obsession, peace with what you're doing with food, in integrity, in alignment, and be slender, and get on with your life. And they just came to believe it just wasn't possible. And so, for the people that I serve, it's like giving them the keys to the kingdom. It's like turning them into Cinderella on the night of the ball. It's saying you actually can have everything you always wanted, with freedom and peace and all of that. And then, of course, health. I mean, we have,
Yes.
Julia Carroll in Grass Valley, California is an example. She lets me use her case study. It's not, frankly, an anomaly. It's commonplace in our community where, Julia Carroll was pushing 200 pounds and now she's 120. I think she's actually 119 pounds now. And her cholesterol was 323, and now I think it's like 150. She was pushing type 2 diabetes, and now, her blood sugars are totally rock solid and normal. Her triglycerides were in the hundreds upon hundreds, and now they're like 80 something. Like, just these huge medical, where people were on all these medications and neuropathy and pain and, stiffness and arthritis and, all this stuff,
That
as
goes
we
along
know,
with it.
it
Yeah.
just goes along with it, just
Mm-hmm.
vaporizes. So,
Right.
we give people I think one of the most important transformations ever,
Okay, and
just
that's where I've got to
priceless.
start. That's exactly it. So, okay, so two things that you said to me are counterintuitive. So here, let me talk about one of them. The first thing you said was your community has basically given up. They've just decided they can't do it. They can't do this. They can't do this and be happy. They can't. They can no longer be focusing on food so much that they can't live. And then in the next breath, you say they found you and found out that was not true. All right, there is the place. How, if they had given up, how did you find them?
For most people, they report, I don't know how I found you. I just clicked on some link, but I don't remember. I don't remember the email. Some people remember, like Ocean Robbins from the Food Revolution Network sent me a link. Pedram Shojai from well.org sent me a link. But I would wager that a good half of my community feels like they stumbled into a wormhole online and they don't even remember.
Got
They
it.
probably clicked on a link to take a quiz about food addiction, or they probably, who
So
knows
that's
what.
where you
But
were. So you were out in the internet. You were shared on Facebook. You had done a Facebook ad. You had
mostly
posted.
emails,
Okay,
mostly emails from affiliate partners. I would
got
say
it.
90 to 95% of the people in our tribe came from affiliate emails.
Got it. So they were in
Yeah,
someone's community somewhere
yeah,
in
exactly.
relation to health and food. And
Or whatever. Yeah. Not all health and food, but mostly. Yeah.
yeah, and then they got an email from that person's whose
Hmm.
community they belong to, and the light bulb just clicked.
Yeah,
And they
exactly.
followed it and they said, well, let's try this. So, in actuality, people don't completely give up. They always keep that fire burning there, but they just don't
Right.
focus on it.
And my hypothesis about that is that it's a very Maslow's hierarchy of needs kind of thing, that we never really give up on ourselves, right? Like something that's in our highest good, we know that it's in our highest good to be in alignment with the food that we put in our mouth and to not be killing ourselves on the installment plan one bite at a time. We know that it's living healthy and happy and free from food obsession is something that's best for us. So I think what happens is I come along and I explain to them how their brain's been working, and no one's ever done that before. No one's ever said, look, let me explain to you why your brain's been blocking you from being successful, and how that peculiar quirk that those of us food addicts have creates such deep-seated psychological issues. Because when you watch yourself betray yourself with food over and over again, you have to spin a story about why that's happening.
Yes.
And you have to conclude that you don't love yourself, to conclude that you don't value yourself, trust yourself. Otherwise, you wouldn't betray yourself like this. Like if you had a friend who is betraying you as badly as this, where you're pledging that you're not going to eat that and then you do, that you're only going to have one piece and then you have three, you would kick that friend out of your life. So you have to come to some kind of story that you're your own enemy, when really it's your brain that's been causing that. And I have a very eclectic scientific background, and I've pulled together articles and theories and understandings about the brain that no one ever has pulled together in relation to this, because I personally have gone out to the dumpster to retrieve food that I threw away. Like I personally know what it's like to buy $200 of binge food at 2 a.m, not a vitamin or mineral in the cart, and go home and stash it in my closet so my roommate doesn't see it, in a hefty bag, and then binge until my stomach lining ruptures. Like I get what it is to be a food junkie. So I'm not like on some soapbox telling them how
what they should
need
do
to eat,
without
how
doing
they need to eat right and exercise,
forget that.
So,
yeah. And so let me ask you this, to bring it full circle, does meditation at all play into your program?
It does. Yeah. It's one of the first.
What a concept.
Yeah.
How did I know that? Yes. So basically you're not just telling them there's this little quirk and I'm going to give you this quick little fix that you can just switch it off and be completely cured. No. Just like we started this conversation, it takes work.
And it's part of my mission statement.
Yes.
Totally.
Which is?
My mission statement is I will have won when anyone, anywhere who really and truly wants to lose all their excess weight and keep it off for good, and is willing to do what it takes to make that happen, will have a roadmap that works.
Hallelujah.
It's the willingness. Like I'm not, if someone really prefers to eat pizza and ice cream and is, would rather put a belt over their midsection and jiggle their way into a right sized body, go do the jiggly thing. Like that's not me. Like you're going to have to give up some foods, and you're going to have to change the way you live, and you're going to have to surrender yourself to something that's going to feel hard sometimes, and this delivers the goods. Like if you're willing to pony up, I won't fail you.
Hallelujah. Thank you so much. Because that's really when I started, and I basically admitted my own issues to a certain extent. That's the way I've been able to get beyond them and to learn beyond them and grow beyond them, is to go inside and realize that that it's okay, that I am not flawed, that I am not terrible, I'm not bad, I'm not any of those negative words, just because I choose to eat something. And I don't have to hide it. Who am I hiding it from? Myself. There's no hiding from there.
I've done that.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah. Hiding food when you live alone. That's great.
Nobody's here and I'm feeling like I've got to hide. Are you? Yeah, no, I won't say are you nuts, but yeah, it felt like that, right? So that's the only way I've been able to get beyond it and to lose the weight I want to lose, to get in the shape I want to get into, to feel happy with food, to enjoy what I eat, to really have my choice back, because that's really what it is. It's my choice. Now, if I could help my husband get there, that would be the next. And, he has to be ready.
Keep your eyes on your own plate, girlfriend.
That's right. I'm doing that. I'm not judging. I'm not saying a word. But when he comes to me and says, oh, do you think I can have this? I'm like, dude, you're asking me permission? Are you kidding? You're an adult. You're 53 years old. Go for what you want to go for. I ain't your keeper. I ain't your mama. Right?
There you go. Woman after my own heart. There you go.
Anyway. All right. Wow. I'm so glad we talked about meditation now, because that's really, you do have to go inside. So now tell me, where do the kids fit into all this? So you've gone on this incredible journey. You've helped thousands and thousands of people get their lives back. I have to tell you, that must feel incredible.
Yeah, it does. And one of my biggest concerns when I started on this journey was that if it hit and it worked, that I would become famous and it would go straight to my head, and that it would put me at spiritual risk, right? At some
Yeah.
kind of,
Yeah.
because I have, definitely the ego of a performer, and um so I get told every day, like, you saved my life, blah blah blah. And for some reason, Mary, I'm surprised about this, but like I kind of duck it. Like I feel like I just kind of turn my head to the side and like let it fly over
Yeah.
my right shoulder.
That
Like,
wasn't me. That was something else.
I mean, the program works. I got it from a 12-step program, which the people I serve by and large wouldn't survive a day in. I mean, like,
Yeah.
it's not a fit for them, right? It's
No.
not a fit for them.
No.
Um, Not that they wouldn't survive in it. They wouldn't choose it. They would be
Right.
like, you guys are forcing me to do a bunch of stuff I'm not willing to submit to,
Right. Right. I don't feel I need. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Not
Hmm.
a fit.
Hmm.
And I mean, I feel like God or the universe or whatever really prepared me for this. Like I look back in my life and every last thing, even all the weird side paths that didn't seem to lead anywhere, gave me pieces of, skills or an outlook or whatever. Like for example, in 2000, fat. I started a network marketing company. Like I signed up to sell vitamins for some multi-level marketing company, and I read Think and Grow Rich, and I, you know, whatever, listened to Zig Ziglar tapes, or
Hmm.
whatever, that
Hmm.
Dennis Waitley tapes, like the whole like entrepreneurial sort of, I'm going to do this thing. And there I am, in these really oversized business suits from Goodwill and stuff that I looked like a marshmallow in, and going to Business Network International meetings and handing out business cards and trying to do the thing. It didn't go anywhere. I
Yeah.
spent way more money than I made, but it did, like, I got bit by the bug,
Hmm.
like there was, like, I felt like a rock star entrepreneur. Like I couldn't get out of my way at that time, and it wasn't the right opportunity or message or whatever.
Right.
But
Product.
I look back at that and I go, it started there, really.
Yeah.
Like I got this sense of like, I have an entrepreneurial thing in
Hmm.
me, I could do this given the right whatever. Anyway, so yeah, so when you say it feels amazing, part of me kind of goes, eh.
Hmm.
I mean, success. So for anyone out there who's an entrepreneur but not as successful as they would like to be, I mean, I'll just kick it down. Like you look at my business, I have a successful business. I do. And I'm reaching people, the whole thing. And what's that saying? Like something success and it just shows up in work clothes. Like it's just a lot more responsibility and obligation and frankly just work,
Hmm.
than I expected. It's a lot less glamour,
Hmm.
and it's like a lot of, now not just my three kids, but I'm beholden to like my employees, which I got to say I love, by the way. I didn't expect to ever have an employee. I was a professor, which is a very sort of independent,
Yes.
on your own thing. And when I started this, even when I wrote my most audacious 5-year vision, which I did pretty early on, someone told me to, I think probably Jeff Walker told me to do it. And I wrote my 5-year vision. And it, it's laughably short-sighted. But the one thing that's striking is I didn't even mention any, like, no employees at all. It
Hmm.
never dawned on me that I would need help to build this thing.
You
And
can just do it all.
I didn't think it would get that. I mean, I didn't know what success would. I didn't know how many roles and jobs and marketing. I had
What it would
no
look
idea.
like at all. Yeah.
No idea.
Hmm. Yeah.
I was just pure ignorance. But I gotta say, Mary, having a team is my favorite part of the whole thing. I love my team so much I can hardly stand it. And I know there's a lot of entrepreneurs in the online space who struggle with their team, and it's a pain point for a lot of people. I just want to say, for the record, it's not for me. And there's a way to have a team where, I really focus on giving them a job that they love, that they
Hmm.
pinch themselves to have. I give them all full benefits. They don't pay a dime for their health insurance. We take them to Hawaii every December just to plan out the next year. And I try to give them, most of all, like, the respect of the professionals they are, that they're rock stars and they're going to show up and do. I don't need to micromanage them
Yeah.
or
The
anything.
babysitting. Yeah.
No,
Mm-mm.
no helicopter, CEO for me. Like they,
Well, you hire right, obviously. You hire the right person for the right position, and they enjoy doing it, and you guys all support each other to rise up. Sounds
I
like.
guess. I mean, I hire people that I like and I hire pretty quickly. So some people have not worked out.
Yeah.
And the people that have not worked out, I've not noticed it for a while because I wasn't there in the weeds, realizing
Yeah.
that they weren't doing their job.
Right.
And when it came to my attention, I fired them really quickly without much regret, which causes, you gotta swoop into everybody else that's hearing about it and love
Mm-hmm.
them up and let them know that they're not
It's
at
okay.
risk and everything.
Right.
But anyway, the whole team thing, that is just a really powerful journey. And I get a lot of support. I guess I kind of want to say that because this is an entrepreneurs group.
Yeah.
I've gotten a lot of support. I have paid through the teeth for my training. Like I didn't expect to know how to do any of this. And as soon as I did my first launch that brought in, I guess, $11,000, I turned around and invested most of that in my own training and education. And I've continued to do that where a big percentage of what comes in, I'm investing in, the team, the talent, or the resources, the know-how, or just to support mastermind groups. I'm a member of
Yes.
several mastermind groups, and that means a lot of travel. That means away from my kids. We should probably pivot to talk about the kids here, but
Yeah.
that's one of my biggest pain points right now is that I'm away from my kids a lot because I'm traveling a
Yeah.
lot.
So how old are
Um,
they now?
8, and 5. The 8-year-olds are about to turn 9. They'll be 9 on May 2nd, 2017. So they're wrapping up third grade, and
Wow.
my littlest one is wrapping up kindergarten and going into first grade. So all 3 girls,
Oh my
and they're
goodness.
cognizant, like they need me, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and
So it sounds like the pendulum has swung a little bit so that the success of the business is wonderful, the employees are wonderful, the investing is wonderful, the changing lives are wonderful, but I hear a little bit of, but how do I still do that and yet still be there for my kids? And here again, you know this, you're not alone. We all struggle with that all the time. It's all about choices. There is no such thing as balance as far as I'm concerned.
yeah,
It is a choice. Every minute of every day is a choice. And when we're launching, when we're going sky high, when we're doing things, we have to choose that the business comes first and the kids will pick it up. And then when we have the lulls between those times, as long as it's not a major issue, you've got a book coming out. That's a huge launch. Those are times you have to choose to be in the business. But in between them, if you stay at that running rate and
yeah,
still choose to do the business, and then don't invest in the kids because it's an investment there, just like it is in the business.
yeah,
It truly is. If you stay in that running rate, even though you're not in a launch, or you keep launching all the time when you have no downtime at all, then yeah, the kids will falter. The family will suffer for it to a certain extent. But it doesn't sound like you're the type of personality that will just do that. You've obviously done enough internal work to hopefully get through that, even though it feels, I know I have so many stories of times when I've feel so guilty that I should have been with my kids. Instead, I chose the business. Um, life,
yeah,
life goes
yeah,
on.
yeah. And I'll just be candid here. I choose the business. And one of the reasons is that for whatever reason, that's what is on my heart to choose. Like I, for whatever reason, wake up, and I don't feel like I created this state of affairs. I wake up every day with an overflowing abundance of motivation to work on my business. And I have never woken up for that to parenthood.
To just
Like
stay home and be there.
I,
Yeah.
I I'm not one of the moms. Like I'm
Yeah.
one of the moms that I walk out the door and sigh a sigh of relief. Like, oh my gosh, a few hours, you know. And I have a very dear friend who's got twin boys, and she's the opposite. She cannot wait to get home to her boys. She thinks about them all the time. Easter comes around, and she's already planning the little outfits and the little, photography, the setup that she's got them all like posed. And I'm like, the last thing that I can even fathom. I'm like, do we have Easter baskets in the basement? I don't know. God, there's, anyway. So
But
it's
those are
just
all
kind of the way I'm
choices.
wired.
That's the way it works. And the kids will know. I got to tell you, one of my most the thing I feel the most pride in is that my boys, I have 2 boys and they're teenagers now, actually 18 and 15. So the 18-year-old's quickly leaving teenagehood,
Oh,
if
he's an
that's,
adult.
yeah, it's crazy every time I think about it. But, they see what mom does. They see what entrepreneurship looks like. They see that it's possible and they have it as an option in their life for themselves. So if nothing else, if I wasn't there for things or was there for things or beat myself up for anything, whatever it might be, they see what's possible. They see that they don't have to go out and get a job somewhere if they don't want to. They can look inside and have the skills to take care of themselves without anyone else, and obviously get help as their business grows. But yeah, if nothing else, you're showing your girls what's possible.
I love that. And I think about, I think raising girls, you have boys, I think raising girls feels like, it feels like a bigger responsibility with the food. And it feels like a bigger responsibility just in terms of, self-efficacy. And it's harder, I think, for women to try to have it all, and I am trying. And it's a really hard juggling act. And, I have my friend Sage Levine, she doesn't have any kids. And we both talk a lot about the trade-offs, that she gets to just take care of herself and focus on her business. And, I've got 3 kids in the mix, and it just adds a whole crazy level of additional pressure and constraints and, those morning hours. And, she's going for a jog on the Santa Cruz coast in the morning. And I'm like, I'm making lunches and getting the kids on the bus,
Exactly.
I'm French braiding some hair and making French toast and like, it's just a different world. But I don't think there's any escaping mom guilt, whether you have kids or not. Like Sage has guilt around like, I haven't started a family. I'm going to regret it. And I'm like, here I am running a business with my kids. I'm going to regret it. And I do sometimes make choices around avoiding deathbed regrets. Like that's kind of so when I said earlier, I choose the business, and I cringed when I said that. I'm sure some listeners cringed when they heard it. Like I get that that's an edgy thing to say, like who doesn't choose their kids, right? Like, of course I love my kids. Of course I'm there for my kids, but I watch myself choosing my business a lot. And so for me, the litmus test is, am I creating a deathbed regret? Like if I ever feel like I'm out there with my business and neglecting my kids to the extent that I'm going to lie on my deathbed and say,
I'm sorry.
Boy, when my kids were in grade school, I should have been there more. I got to circle back around and spend more time, and
but you can do that. Oh my gosh. That is, you have that again, self-awareness to realize that now and not when they're 25 and you have no other choice. They're done. They're on their own. They're on their lives, because it totally is that. I'm seeing my 18-year-old really make choices to bring other people into his life. I'm not the center of his universe anymore. I am not the one that he comes to for every decision like he did when he was a teenager or when he was in elementary school. We are it, in addition to other external, teachers that they trust or friends or things like that. But he's starting his own life, and whatever I've done, I've done. He's got to fly. So yeah, you'll get to that point. You're at least looking at that now when they're definitely still in the place that you can influence them. But if you wait, where most of us do, to regret that or think about that possible regret when they're 25, it's done. You can go back and repair relationships and all that, but you can't influence in any way, in any similar way as you can when they're little. So, it's all choices. This is life. We can only live it day by day and figure it out as we go. Nobody gave us the manual that you are an entrepreneur, you are an author, you have a successful business, and you have children, and this is what you need to do. Boom, 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 boom. Here's your outline. Nobody does that. We don't have that. We just have to do whatever we can do. So yeah, I get it. I hear you. There's always going to be guilt. Get over it. Let's go forward and figure it out, right? I had to tell myself that. I'm telling you, this has been amazing. Please, Susan, I would really love to have you back on the show, because this hour long or hour or less is not enough to talk about all the things that you have learned and done. Not just, I'm so glad we took this direction, but not just in the self-care and motivation and meditation and eating. We didn't even get into those details, but also how you built this business. I know the Power Parents are just going, oh my gosh, how did you go in the matter of 2 years from no email list and just learning this through these amazing people that we've already mentioned to 400 and something thousand, you mentioned 450,000 people that you have on your list, and a business of 25 employees within the span of 2 years. That's really pretty incredible. I mean, I do know one person who is similar to that, and I'm in a mastermind group with him, and he's an amazing guy. But that's incredible. That really is. And so some of those tools that you can talk about from a business standpoint, I would love to have you back on the show and be able to chat about those if you're willing to revisit us in the future.
No, I'm perfectly willing to kick down. Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Well, I know we've been talking for a while. Is there any last piece of advice or anything that you can do to help our audience, especially, this is an issue that and I know is pretty rampant in our society, issues with food. Any last piece of advice or words of wisdom that you can give them in that regard?
Well, I understand we were talking before that we went live here, that this is airing on March 21st, right? So
Yes.
actually my book comes out today.
Oh my goodness.
So like today. It's available at Barnes & Noble today.
All right.
There's a book launch party in New York City today.
Oh my
And,
gosh.
I'm spending the morning talking with, radio outlets all over the country back to back from 6 a.m. to noon. So my PR rep tells me today. And, we're not recording it on that day, but my understanding is it's going live on that day. So,
Yes.
go buy the book
Wow.
would be one thing. But,
Yeah.
the book will lead you to one of the first things you kind of need to know to have to know where your compass is pointing in the landscape, this confusing and contradictory landscape of food and wellness and all that. You need to know how addictable your brain is, because when you're talking about addiction, there's one sort of set of flavor of solutions. And when you're really not addicted, there's a whole other suite of options available to you. And I sort of walk people through that. So I developed a quiz pretty early on, and it's been, scientifically validity and reliability tested. And people could go to, there's lots of places where it's available, but foodfreedomquiz.com is a good place, foodfreedomquiz.com, because in order to get food freedom, you really have to know how susceptible your brain is to the pull of addictive foods, because we're just awash in a sea of addictive foods. And
It's so scary. It's so sad.
some brains respond differently than other brains, and I explain that in the book. But just super quick, foodfreedomquiz.com. It's a scale from 1 to 10, the susceptibility scale. I'm a 10. Yay! Perfect 10 is not what you want to be on this quiz, but if you are, I got your back. We have a program to help you. And and if you're a 1, go
enjoy
download
life.
MyFitnessPal and count your calories.
Right.
Really, So anyway, that's probably the first step is go
Wow.
buy the book and go to Food Freedom Quiz, and that's a good start.
Fantastic. Yay. Well, I'm sure you're understanding, or I'm sure this won't be a surprise to you. I think that's my next browser visit right now. I'm telling you, I got to see if
husband, and then he'll get his own education, right?
Yeah,
Let
yeah,
him
yeah,
get
yeah.
educated by someone else.
Oh,
'cause
totally. Yes. I stopped doing that a long time ago.
I gotta say, I love that about. I can hear that in you, Mary, already. The health of the boundary you have.
Yeah. I
between
definitely,
and
yeah,
structure.
it's definitely, I might plant a few seeds here and there, because he's definitely one that has to germinate on things before he jumps on any bandwagon. So I might plant seeds. I might drop hints. I might go, gosh, this is something amazing that I just saw the other day. And if it germinates, fantastic. If it doesn't, I don't go there. It's just the way it works. But thank you for that. Thank you so much for spending this time. I've had a blast. I could pick your brain beyond belief beyond this, because I have been looking for, to be honest, when I first started Parent Entrepreneur Power, I wanted someone with the brain psychology of an entrepreneur and a parent. And I know you're not necessarily that, because you have more of the food and all of that, but I'm still looking for someone who can help me understand how a parent's brain is actually better wired for entrepreneurship than a non-parent's brain. So maybe we can talk about that
Interesting.
later, and you might be able to point me to some people you might know that might be able to help me on that journey, because I've been looking for that person since this started, and that's 3 years ago now, beginning of 2014. So
Cogitate on that. That's a
yeah,
very provocative
thank you.
idea. I'll think about that.
Thank you for your time. I'm so enjoyed our conversation, and I can't wait to chat again.
Oh, thanks, Mary. It's been a real pleasure.
To get powered up for your day, just go to parententrepreneur.power.com and listen to any one of the over 100 episodes we've had so far with amazing entrepreneurs just like you. It might just help you feel like a grown-up again.